Alright, so I know we have a lot of new subs, so if you haven't seen this, I'll just explain it.
This morning we are in Springfield, Missouri. We are now in Cabot, Arkansas.
Now this one?
Very first goat we got, he got mad because
All right, goat lovers, we are now here in Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
But anyway, this thing is amazing.
This is how we let people know where we are.
Yeah. Alright, goat lovers, this morning we are in Springfield, Missouri, and we are dropping off this Canby Champ buckling with her new owner, Jennifer.
yes. And we are so excited.
Hey guys, welcome back to the soap shop, and right now I am in the section of soap shop where my soaps kind of hang out for a few days until I am ready to cut them and get them on the drying rack to cure. So I'm just going to show you guys around a little bit. Alright, so I know we have a lot of new subs, so if you haven't seen this, I'll just explain it. This here is, for starters, the soap that we made in the last video, the white gold, and it has been sitting here for 24 hours, and it's sitting in our cooler box. So this, let me show you, is again what we call our cooler box, because goat milk soap can change colors, it can get burnt if it gets too hot, things like that. It's really important to keep your goat milk soap as cool as possible once it goes through the saponification process, or rather as it's going through the saponification process, it does get super hot. So my husband, he's super crafty and came up with this cooler box. Now all it is a fancy box that has a window AC right here, and then so when I'm ready, after I make my soap and I'm ready to let it do its thing, I'm gonna put them in the cooler box. I'm gonna turn on my AC on high, close this bottom portion up, and then my soaps go in here. So while the soap is warming up, doing the saponification, the cooler box actually keeps the soap from getting really hot and just makes for a prettier product, a better quality product. And it, believe it or not, you guys, stays 50 to 60 degrees in this box with the AC on. So anyway, this is my awesome cooler box that makes my soap a lot better quality. Speaking of soap, alright, so you guys, again, were here with me the last video to make this gorgeous white gold. And I'm going to show you the next step. So it is in this box, obviously, and I need to get it taken out. Alright, so again, if you guys saw the last video, I did go into detail as far as wanting my goat milk soap to stay as white as possible. And this is just my goat milk soap that has no additives. It is literally just goat milk, my oils that I use, and lye. And it turns out so pretty and white when you keep your temperatures down super, super low. So after 24 hours, and this is hard in front of the camera, I am going to just take these molds, take the silicone mold that obviously has the soap in it out of the box. For one, I can use the box again, and it just allows the cooler temps to be able to get to the outside of that silicone. So there you go. Oh, I'm just so happy with it. Turned out super white. That's what you want. So once I take my soap out of the wooden portion of the mold, I leave it in the silicone mold, and then they all go up here until they are ready to unmold out of the silicone part. So it just depends on the soap that I'm making and the additives that I use as to how long it takes before I can unmold them. 48 hours is a pretty good time frame. Some soaps might take 4 days before I can actually unmold them and they're good to go. So I'm gonna put them up here until they're ready. And then my little boxes here are just gonna go right here in the fancy mold area that my husband made for me. And they are there when I'm ready to use them. So I mentioned when I make soap, I'm typically making at least 8 loaves. I'll do 2 different types of soaps and do 4 loaves of each. So again, typically this would have 8 loaves, and then today I'm gonna make more soap, which is gonna go into the cooler box, and then tomorrow when I pop those out, they're gonna go up here. Ideally, these are ready to be unmolded, and then once they're unmolded, at least 24 hours before I will cut them. And then once they are ready to be cut, this here is our cutting station. That is our cutter. So we will pull them down. Of course, they're unmolded and sitting for 24 hours already. Pull them down here, and then we cut them. We weigh them to make sure everything is a big, fat, beefy bar, and then they're ready for the drying rack. All right, so that's a little tour of this side of our soap shop. So now what I need to do is get ready for the soap that I'm gonna be making with you guys today. So I will meet you back here after I have everything ready.
Yeah. There's the buffalo. Elizabeth with no phone.
You want to know where it's at? I had it in my hand and chasing the grandbaby around. And it was like, oh man.
We are now in Cabot, Arkansas. We are dropping off this Lodi doling with her new owner, Elizabeth.
All right, you guys, so I am all set up to start making some soap, and the soap that we're gonna make today is our honey oat bar. So it is another one of our best sellers, so I want to get this on the shelf just as soon as possible. And so I'm gonna show you guys how we make it. So in here, as usual, I have all 4 of my oils. I have my olive oil, my castor oil, my shea butter, and my coconut oil. And this method is what I was telling you guys. This is the milk and oil method. So this is the milk. It is not a lye solution. There is no lye in it whatsoever. That is going to come a little bit later. So our first thing we're going to put into our oils here is our lovely goat's milk. I have missed that part. I just love the way that looks. And then we are going to add our honey. Now this is some really, really awesome organic raw honey. Let's just get that in there. Now honey is one of those awesome additives to your soaps. Not only does it make it a harder bar, it helps with really awesome, beautiful suds or bubbles. And it has a lot of benefits to the skin. So honey is a good thing. And then now, this is oatmeal. Now what I do with the oatmeal is, of course I use my Ninja. I use that for lots of things. But I grind it up to make sure it is very fine. Not like so fine that it's not going to be a good exfoliant for the soap, but just fine enough that it's a mild exfoliant. So the first time I actually made honey oat, I did not grind up the oats very well at all, and it was a rough soap. So I learned, obviously, that I didn't want to cut my skin with the oats. I wanted it to be beneficial for the soap, and so I just grind it up super, super fine, and that way it's a mild exfoliant. Nothing that's gonna hurt you. All right, so we're gonna get that in. Good to go. Now I like to make sure that I add everything possible to my oils before I add the lye. That way there's less blending once you actually have the lye in. As soon as you start blending the oils and lye together, it's gonna start thickening up. So this is what I do, because if I'm trying to blend in the oats and the honey and the milk and everything with the lye in here, it's gonna get thick on me before it's probably even all incorporated evenly throughout the oils. So that's what I'm doing. So I put my blender in here, give it a burp. Now burping it, that just means when you put your blender in, there's a good chance an air pocket is gonna be in there. So you just wanna burp it, get all the air out so it doesn't just get blended into your oils. So there we go, and we blend. Okay, so once I have it pretty well blended here, now I'm going to blend on high. Now blending on high is not something I do when I have the lye actually in the oils, just because I like to take my time. I'm not trying to rush it. I want the end product to be really amazing, so I never ever go on high when I actually am ready to start mixing lye and oils. But if there's no lye in here, I'm gonna go on high. So since that's all mixed up, nothing's gonna blow up at me, we're going high. Good deal. Now all you really want to make sure is that the honey is really, really incorporated evenly throughout all of the liquid oils. And it is. We're looking good. I don't see any clumps of the oats or anything like that, so we're ready for the lye, guys. So here is the lye that we made in the last video, the lye solution rather. So it is distilled water and lye, and I just melted the lye in that distilled water. And if you guys saw, I use ice cubes, but that's just because I want to make sure the fumes are down to a minimum. So anyway, there's the lye. And with water lye, I actually always strain it into this little strainer. Now when I'm doing the method of the lye over the milk ice cubes, I do not strain it because it's such a thick lye solution, it just doesn't get through the strainer, and then you'd have to use a really big strainer and it kind of defeats the purpose. However, the water lye solution, it does go through it, and if there's any chunks or anything like that that didn't get dissolved, it's going to catch it. So because I can't strain it on the other method, that is the reason I take like an extra 5 minutes and just continue to stir the milk and the lye together, making sure, no ifs, ands, or buts, that it's all dissolved, because again, I can't strain it on that method. So here we go. I'm just gonna pour the lye into the strainer. Good deal. So I am very anal about making sure it all gets dissolved. So I have to say I don't come across chunks, but it's just a little safer for me. I feel better about it. So there, we're good to go. So I told you guys, one of the things I do is always check the temperature of my oils and my lyes before I actually start soaping, because I want to make sure they are at least room temperature, as low as humanly possible for all of these ingredients to be at a very cool temperature. So I'll tell you guys here. Alright, so my oils with the milk added is coming in at 70 degrees, which is perfectly fine. And my lye is 77, so room temperature, which is what I wanted. So if you guys saw the last video, you saw that it was super hot. It was almost 130 degrees, and then it does its thing and comes right back down to room temperature. So once I add this lye to the oils, we'll take the temperature again, but it already starts getting hot, so it's kind of an instant thing where it's gonna warm up. So just take that into consideration. If you start soaping at 100 degrees, well, if it's going to get 30 degrees hotter during the saponification, then you're at 130 degrees. Whereas if you start at a lower temp, say 80 degrees, we'll just call it 80, and then you go up to 110, obviously that's going to be a better product and it's not going to burn your milk, or at least not as likely. So here we go. All right. Perfect. Alright, give it a stir. Well, you can see it. You can already see the change. So this is darker, and then it has the lighter. The darker portion is where the lye is getting mixed with the oils, and that's okay. Alright, so we'll blend. Alright, so that is all incorporated. It's all blended together, if you will. And I can tell that because I've made enough soap. I can tell by the coloration. However, I can already tell it's getting hot, and we just started. So for fun, let's check it out, right? 100 degrees. Crazy. And again, that's just going to continue to get hotter. So this is not quite the consistency I want to see. I'm going to keep blending for just a little bit longer, and then we'll get it in the molds. Okay, so that is where I want it. It's still super runny, but completely blended together and just barely starting to thick up right now. So let's check that temp again. And right now it is reading at 104. So again, it continues to go up. But yeah, we're ready for the molds. Let's get them. All right, we have our molds. Now for the honey oat, I use bubble wrap inside the molds, and then I actually, once I pour it in, I'm gonna fold it over the top, not the complete way, and then I'm going to do a little bit of a swipe on the portion that isn't covered. So really all I do is cut some bubble wrap to the size that I want it, and then I just kind of slide it in the mold and fold it over the side. So that is just an extra step that I take for the molds anyway. So let's get this poured in here before it gets any thicker. And pour it in slowly, because you don't want that soap to push that mold up or anything. Or I'm sorry, the bubble wrap. See how quickly it got thick? Good. Okay, a little more. And a little more. There we go. Alright, so just shake it a little. If you see, I try to, if it's thick enough, I like to get it to where I can kind of, it mounds up a little bit. So you get more soap into the mold than if it was just right up to the level. And now I'm just going to pull this over and just lightly get it down in there. And it's pretty cool because when you take this off, it has the look of honeycomb, which obviously is perfect for the honey oat bar. I'm not trying to push down real hard or anything. You don't want all that soap to squish out of there, but you want it down in there so that it looks good when it's unmolded. Okay, maybe just a little more here. Now this one. Good deal. Okay, so that part is done. And like I said, so I'm just gonna take this little tiny spoon and do what we call our goat toe swipe. And then for the portion of the soap here that is not covered in bubble wrap, I am gonna show you what we do. Lovely. I love that. Okay, so that is it. That's all we have to do for the honey oat. It is not a hard soap to make, but man, you can't beat it. Okay, there's lots of our soaps that you can't beat, so I don't know. They're all my favorite. I know. Take a look, guys. This is what honey oat looks like right after it's made. Okay, so I'm gonna get these in the cooler box and make a couple more, and then I gotta clean up.
Yay! Crossing the Mississippi again. Third time this trip. All right, we are now in Western Tennessee, and we are dropping off this Abilene and Champ buck with their new owners, Aaron and Karen. You said you had a YouTube channel?
I do, Shemp Hollow. We are very small, but we're getting there.
All right, so if you want to follow this little guy, head on over there and subscribe.
Very first goat we got, he got mad because they put him in the back of the Yukon, and she went up to the front and ate his bugles.
And I was hungry. I had nothing to eat that day. I was eating on them bugles. The next thing I know, I see a head. I'm like,
All right, so now that I am done making my soap, now it's time for my least favorite part of soap making, and it's the cleanup. So there are a couple different ways to clean up after your soap making. However, the most important thing is you don't want a bunch of excess soap down your drain, because it can eventually clog your drain, or even clog it right there on the first time you did it, depending on how much soap you put down the drain. So of course you want to minimize anything going down the drain. You want it to be just majority water and Dawn. So I'm going to show you what I do to make sure that happens. And also there is another way. Some people will actually do all of their soap making and then they let it sit until the following day. And the reason for that, or the theory behind that way of doing it, is everything. So here I have my soap, right? And everything's gonna get hard. It's all gonna be hard like soap, maybe just a little bit pliable, but you're gonna be able to just kind of scrape it out. In theory, it's not going to be, lye heavy, because at this point it's saponified, or at least it has taken a large process of the saponification out of the equation. So you're just dealing with soap, if you will, and just kind of scraping it all off into the trash and then washing the dishes. And me, myself, I do not want to wait until the following day. For one, I feel like that just needs to get out of the way. I don't have a shop that is just my shop for soap making, so I do have to be extra careful, if you will. And I know a lot of people making goat milk soap at home, same kind of scenario, so you don't have a big fancy elaborate shop. I don't yet, but I'm working on it. So, because I'm going to clean them now and I don't want all the soap going down my drain, this is my best friend. It's actually my best friend for soap making since my husband bought it. He used to do concrete, which he still could, but this thing here reminded him of a concrete tool, and so here we are. But anyway, this thing is amazing for soap making and also for scraping all of the soap out of your dishes before you start washing them. So let's do that. Alright, so guess what, guys? While I was scraping this out, it wasn't recording, or it stopped recording, one of the two, but either way, I scraped this into my trash can. So now that you see, this is the only dish that has soap in it for this particular soap. But you see, it has hardly anything left in it, and that is what you're looking for, because you don't want anything to go down your drain, or not a lot of it. By the time I start washing this with Dawn, it's going to be so diluted, it's not going to be like chunks of anything going down my drain to potentially clog it. Another thing that I do, now my stick blender, obviously this comes off of the handle portion, I always make sure to rinse this off right after I'm done blending the soap. Otherwise it gets really thick on it. And here, where the blade is, and behind the blade, it gets really hard to clean. So right after I'm done making soap, I just rinse the stick portion of the blender, and then again under here, and then I just fill one of my containers up with some water so that the bottom portion of the blender is soaking, so that the blades and everything comes really, really clean. So that's another step that I take. But again, that one's like right after I'm done blending, come straight to the sink and clean this bad boy off. Alright, so before I start actually washing the dishes, I have some heavy duty, longer gloves that I actually just put on over top of my other gloves. And that way, I make sure I don't get lye up my sleeve, down my arm, anything like that, or lye water, rather. And here's my other glove. Now, I had considered just soaping with these, but they're so thick and a little bit long on the end, so it didn't work. It was kind of just getting in my way, and I need my fingers. Alright, we're ready. So my two best friends while cleaning up after soap making is Dawn and some really hot water. So that's what you're going to use. I'm just going to fill up my little tub here a little bit and then get my washcloth wet with hot water and put a lot of Dawn on it. Oh, hopefully on the rag, right? There we go. Alright, so I don't need a lot of water. And another thing I don't do is fill up my sink and wash the dishes as if they were my dinner dishes. And because it's all kind of, you don't want to make a lye solution bath or anything like that for everything. So at least this way, anything you clean, it just goes right down the drain before you clean the next. Now all of my dishes that I use for soap making, I never ever ever use for cooking. So everything is separate and you don't mix them up. Even though I clean them really good and probably nothing would happen, it is just an extremely good rule of thumb. Just keep all of your soaping utensils and all of your dishes or cooking utensils separate from each other. Seriously guys, if you clean this off right away, it makes it so much easier on you. Alright, so I'm also going to give my sink a good cleaning. Just wipe it down really good with soap and a rag. So the only other thing I do is make sure my sink area is really, really clean and free of lye, which I'm very, very careful when it comes to the lye and the soap. So I just take my clean towels, and I've already washed out my sink and the surrounding area with soapy water. All of these towels are going to go straight into the wash, including all of the clothes that I happen to wear, and the trash that the soap from my soap container got scraped into goes straight out to the trash. So there's no longer any lye or anything in the kitchen, and it's all cleaned up, and that is literally it, you guys.
That's your guy right there.
Hi, handsome boy. Hello. Oh, I love you. He's like, I don't love you yet.
All right, goat lovers, we're now here in Fort Campbell, Kentucky. We're dropping off this Lily Buckling with her new owner, Heather, from Sage and Stone Homestead. So if you guys want to follow this little booger, head on over to her channel and subscribe, and you can watch this little guy grow up and have babies all the way out here in Kentucky.
We're excited to use him with our mini La Mancha herd.
It's been a long drive for this little guy, but he made it.
Yeah, he did. He's a doll. Boy.
Every morning, me and Daren, when we're working out, we take a lap around the property, and little Dinky's the only one standing on the A-frame. She can always see us from a distance. And it's actually kind of sad. I've been keeping this goat alive, and she's been a little escape artist on me for years now. Sad to see her go.